Video 6. Chapter 18. I was in my office working when Emmett came in. "I need to go to meet with Dad. Coming with me or staying here?" he had asked. I looked up from my desk to him. I gave him a look as if to say he was insane. "You are funny, are you not? Since when do you go anywhere without me?" I asked him. "Well, I am leaving, so if you're coming, you'd best be moving." He laughed and stepped back out the door. I made a small laugh and shook my head and then placed what I was doing in my desk and stood to see where he ran off to. I met up with him and the others in the hall. By the others, I mean his wives. We went to Valhalla and into the sunroom, where Lewis was. As we entered, we knelt. After he told us to rise, we took a seat with him at the table. Partina, Juanita, and Elizabeth were meeting with the priestesses. They were learning how to help maintain the people and the role they would be in with the priestessy. I stood and moved out to the garden as Emmett and his father spoke. He was learning what he needed to be, or needed to become or be the high priest. I walked the maze, getting lost as usual, and then when I finally found my way out, which took me about an hour passing, then I moved back to where they were. I sat quietly listening to them talk. "Emmett, it is soon going to be time for you to take your fourth priestess," I heard Lewis tell Emmett. "Yes, I know, Father, and I wish not to discuss this at this time. Besides, I have other things right now on my mind, like the lights around my daughters." He told Lewis, "Those lights I explained to you before. It is the light of Odin. They will be able to connect with the protectors of the throne. Emmett, you have 5 more cycles left to take 4 priestesses." "The 4 priestesses that are left," Lewis said. "Father, I do not want to talk about this. Besides, there is only 3 more priestesses," Emmett informed Lewis. "Then you will need to find a 4th. Lewis said. "Yes, Father, and she will fall into my arms out of the sky of Odin." "Right," Emmett said, very sarcastic to his father, and I chuckled. Lewis gave me a stern look. Then we were saved by the ladies as they came into the area and over behind Emmett. We stood as they entered, and they curtsied to Lewis. "Looks as if they are finished, so I will meet you tomorrow morning." "Yes?" Emmett said to his father, standing. "No, there is a block sale tonight. You are going to make an appearance at it," Lewis informed him. "Mike's performances tonight," Elizabeth started to protest. "Emmett has taken enough time slacking off. The rest of you do not have to go. However, Emmett needs to be interacting with our people. They need to get to know him as their high priest, and not my trouble-making, happy-go-lucky youngest son," Lewis said. I started to laugh, and now Emmett was giving me those looks. "Father, really? Now, ladies," he said, and waved the ladies before him and started to leave. He was not talking to me, so I just followed. As we left the front gates, Cyrus fell in on the other side of Emmett. We then made our way back to Devar. When we got to the palace, we met up with Scott, Mike, and Danny. Then I followed them into the gathering room, where Stockard and the children were. They were playing games. As we entered, the children jumped up, waved, and they sat back down. "E, you coming tonight?" Mike said as we entered, and I waved with a chuckle to the kids and Stockard. Emmett moved to sit with Stockard, and the others followed him. "I do not know what I am doing tonight. If Father will give me a minute to myself. When is it, anyway?" he said, taking a seat, and Juanita moved over behind him, placing her arms around his neck. Partina sat beside Stockard, and Elizabeth sat on the sofa. Scott moved over to her and started teasing her. I and Cyrus took a lean near the fireplace. "'Tis at 8 passing, Mike said, fixing him a drink. "You know, E, your father is going to insist you take the next priestess," Juanita informed him as she hung on him. He reached up, grabbed her arms as he scooted back and placed her on his lap. "I know, time just gets away from us. I will think about it soon," he said. "What is the big deal? It is just the next priestess in the line of the kingdoms," Elizabeth had said, as she had gotten Scott to no longer be tickling her and be still sitting with his arm around her. "I do not want to think about it right now. Yo, Scott, do me a favor," Emmett said as he looked to the two of them on the couch. Emmett did not want to think about it, because the next kingdom in line was Xandoe, and that meant Princess Penelope, the playgirl herself. "Sure thing, E, what is it?" Scott called back to him. "Take Lizzie to Mike's performance tonight. Dad is making me attend some block cell with him. He thinks our people do not know me," he laughed. "Sure thing. What time I need to have her home by, bro?" Scott asked, laughing with Emmett. "What do you mean, have her home by?" Emmett asked him. "Well, it's not like it is every day. My brother asked me to take his wife out on a date, you see," Scott said, laughing harder. "Scott Humburge, that is not funny," Elizabeth whined. I chuckled and moved to fix me a drink, and the kids stood up, and I suspect all the adult talk bored them, for they went outside. "She'd rather go with you than me," he had remarked. "Emmett, that is not true," she protested, and stood out of Scott's arms. "I will go to the cell with you," she said sincerely. "Lizzie, you care not for the block cell. That is why I am having Scott take you to the show. Take Anne with you. I am sure she would enjoy it also," he told her, as I believe she misunderstood what Emmett was saying. Then the way he said it, it could have been taken two ways. "It is true I do not care for them. However, if I am to be with you, I would rather be with you," she said. "Lizzie, go to the show. Only one of us need to be miserable tonight, not both," Emmett said, having Juanita to stand up. He then looked to Cyrus and I. "I will be in my office. I have some work to do before leaving. Law, find out what time the damn block cell is. I will tell Father we will meet him on the way," he said, and started to move out of the gathering room. I nodded. "It is at 6 passing, I informed him, and he waved a hand to me as he continued out. The ladies then followed him out, and soon Mike and the others left also. I looked to Cyrus. Poor E. He just has about 5 more cycles, and then he has to take all 7 priestesses," I said. "True. However, I do not think he wants to," Cyrus replied. "Oh, he wants to, just not in order. Xandoe is next," I laughed. "You enjoy yourself tonight. I have something to do. I know you want to go to the show. I and E will be fine," I told him. His face lit up and he looked to me. You sure about that? He asked. Yes, I am sure. Enjoy yourself. Like E said, no need for all of us to be miserable. I left and went to my office after checking to make sure Emmett was in his. At 5 passing, I made my way to Emmett's office. Partine and Juanita, along with Stockard, was there. I looked to them and then Emmett. When you want to leave? I asked. Now is better than never, I suppose, he replied. Can I come with you? Stockard asked from the couch. If you want, Emmett replied, and we left. For the block meeting, Lewis and Vivian, as Emmett and his father and the ladies sat, I walked about the cell block. After all, the guards of the high priest were around, and only a fool would be stupid enough to attack Emmett here. So I busied myself around the platform. I was watching as they brought out a girl with long brown hair and chained her to the first set of display chains. Then they brought out a male and chained him to the second. The next was another female with short brown hair, and she was chained. Then the excitement happened as they brought out the fourth and the fifth one. The fifth one that chained was easily. However, the fourth one did not seem to like the idea of being chained. She started to fight the two handlers that had her. She was doing a good job at it also. I was not sure if she was trying to get loose or what she had in her head to do. However, her abilities were good, as she was as quick as lightning, diverting the handlers, and the conductor then went over to her and was helping the other two. Somehow or another, he got chained instead of her. Now I was laughing as hard as I could, watching the guards get loose the conductor. That is when I heard Emmett's voice call out. I looked over to him. 25 gold, I heard him blurt out. I wondered when the cell had started, and then realized it had not when the conductor looked to Emmett, as it seemed everyone else was also. The cell has not yet began, sire, the conductor had explained to Emmett. Yes, it has. It has begun and is over with that girl. 25 gold, Emmett said, pointing at the girl that was fighting with the men. She then had thrown a kick and kicked one of the guards in the head. Sire, with all due respect, I am leaning more on having this one destroyed than sold, he said, very irritated, one would think. No, Emmett said, standing up. I moved closer to Emmett and the others as they looked to him in disbelief. She is not going to be destroyed. I just purchased her for 25 gold, Emmett told the conductor, then continued. You, there, girl, cease that, he ordered her, and to much of her amusement and everyone else's, I am sure of, she was no longer fighting the others and looked straight to Emmett. Now come to me, he then ordered her, waving his hand to him and pointing before him. The men holding her let her go. It was even funny to watch as she seemed to be trying to not do as Emmett had ordered her. I stepped closer to the platform and helped her come down off of it. And as I let go, she moved before Emmett. Good. Now you will heal, he said, informing her in an order, and as she seemed to be fighting herself down to her knees before him, she went. Pretty good trick, master, she said as she settled to her knees. Yes, I am sure it is. How would you like to be a priestess? He asked her. Now the combination of the look Lewis gave Emmett and the plain simple fact is how he asked the girl, I started to laugh, as well as all the others there around us. Right, master. A priestess. Master is funny, she replied with laughter. I am serious. I am Emmett Humburge, High Priest of the Millennium, he told her, and I tried to cease from laughing, as Lewis was giving me a look that could take my life. Right, and who is that beside you? The High Priest of the Now? She asked, pointing to Lewis with a laugh in her voice, and I about lost it once again. Yes, this is my father, Lewis Humburge, Emmett informed the girl. Right, sure, a priestess. Sounds good to me, she said, still laughing and not believing a word Emmett was saying. Emmett, think about what you are doing. My son, she is a Dinah. You will have to train her to the gold collar, then to the courtesan of the priestess. Emmett, you once told me you did not wish to have to train a gold collar. And I am telling you, it is even more irritating to train a courtesan to the priestess decree than it is to a kitten decree, Lewis told Emmett with concern in his voice. That was before I climbed Odin's mountain and received the scepter and must take Princess Penelope as a mate. It is not going to happen, Father. I will train this girl to be my gold collar, then she will learn with the others. Emmett told Lewis. I believe the girl started to believe Emmett now was who he said he was, for she tried to get up and found she could not. Whoa, Jack, cease, wait, one moment, she said. Yes, Emmett said, looking down to her. Should Master have asked if Adina wished a gold collar before Master asked if she wished to be a priestess? She asked. No, he simply replied to her, and my laughter started. I have to say this was the best time I had ever had at a Thornton cell. Leave it to Emmett to become the entertainment. Why not? She asked, surprised. Do you have a collar on, girl? Emmett asked her, and I was trying my damnedest to cease laughing before Lewis did take my life. However, the girl had no collar on, so I looked to Emmett, to see what her answer would be. Well, Master, at the moment, no, she said, and with that I started again to laugh and get evil looks from Lewis. Do you have a brand, then? He had asked her, acting as if he never asked the first off-the-wall question. Yes, Master, I have had it since birth, she replied to him. Birth? Emmett questioned, a little confused, it would seem. Oh, never mind that. You will be trained, he then informed her. Master, I believe according to the decree, a gold collar is begged for. I do not wish to beg for such a thing. She then in return informed him, and I was once again trying to regain my composure. Not to become a priestess, it does not necessarily have to be. Now be silent, he ordered her. Now the look on her face made me to fight much harder to keep my composure. Emmett then turned to Lewis. In 30 days passing, announced the joining to this girl. He said, waving his hand to the girl. Do I even get a name? Or would you like I announce the joining of a Dinah to the Millennium High Priest? I can hear the talk now, Lewis inquired, and I lost it again and turned around and was laughing so hard my sides started to ache. What is the last name you knew yourself to have? I heard Emmett say. Charisma, Master, the girl answered. Father, Charisma, gold collar courtesan. Law, I heard him say, and I turned facing him still with laughter in my voice. Yes, regain your composure and see that this girl is delivered to Devar and placed in a diner room. He said, not the least impressed. Will do, I said, holding my breath to keep from laughing as Lewis was looking at Emmett with the same look he was giving me. Emmett then looked to the girl. You will go with Law, and you will give him no trouble, he ordered her. I then reached down, taking her by the arm and raising her to her feet, and led her to Devar, and as Emmett ordered, to a room there. She did not fight me. I think she was still in deep shock or still under Emmett's control. Not sure which it truly was. Chapter 19. The next morning, Emmett had told me to get the girl and meet him in Lewis's office at Valhalla. This should be fun, I thought. I went to the room where the girl was. As I opened the door, she heeled off the bed. Come with me, I told her. Any chance of you turning your back and letting me get away from you? Just blink and turn around, she said. I laughed at her. Not on your life, missy. Come along. Need I restrain you? I asked her. No, I will behave, she said to me. At least for now, that is. I said, looking back to her. She smirked and walked before me. We walked out to the coach and started to Valhalla. When we arrived, we went into Lewis's office. I knelt, as she did as well, her head to the ground, or to the floor. Rise, Law, heel girl, Lewis said to us. I stood and moved over to the couch where Emmett was sitting and stood beside him, watching as the girl heeled before us. Who was your previous owner? Lewis asked her. My previous owner was Countess Livian Alton, she replied. Vivian, as in Matthew and Vivian. Are you the courtesan who escaped not yet than 3 days ago? Emmett had spoken up, and it seemed shocked. Yes, Master, Adina is the same. Adina supposes Master will return Adina now? She said, it seemed with hope in her voice. No, I will send word and coin for you, Emmett had told her. Master is going to purchase Adina twice, she said surprisingly, and I had to chuckle. Emmett was really losing his mind. He had already spent 25 gold for the runaway. Damn, not marrying Penny really meant a lot to him. Then knowing Penny, I really could not blame him much. If I need be, I will. You will not run from me. So lose the thought out of your head, he told her. I did laugh, as the look on her face seemed even more surprised, and the surprised look she had before. Emmett was reading her as easy as a book. Then Emmett was good at reading people, even when they didn't want him to. He used to break my blocks all the time. Then I just gave up. Emmett, is there nothing I can do to get you to change your mind? Lewis had asked, with great concern in his voice. No, Father. She will be trained, as I said, in 30 days, just in time for the turn of the cycle, and will be my 4th priestess, Emmett told him. He then stood and bowed to Lewis. I followed him as he ordered the girl to follow, and you could tell she was trying her best to not obey him and failing greatly. We went back to the coach and to Devar. Emmett, you going anywhere within the next 5 passages of the day? I asked him as I had some business to take care of at the lodge. No, I am going to introduce Charisma to the others, he told me. All right, then I will be back in about 5 passing, I told him. I then stood to the back and got my steed, or I went to the back and got my steed and traveled to the lodge to meet with Stewart and Sophia. As I entered into the main room of the lodge, I saw Stewart, Stephen, Sophia, and Angela. I looked from one to the other. Family gathering? Where is Isic? I laughed. Stewart laughed as well. He is with Mom and Dad. We were getting ready to go to a show. Stewart had said as Carol came in, and seeing me, she heeled her head to the ground. I just looked to her, then Stewart. I need to speak with you and Sophia. Or Sophie, I told Stewart. All right, he said, standing, and Sophie moved before us to my office. As we entered, I leaned on my desk. Do either of you want the lodge? I asked them. Want the lodge? What are you getting at? Sophia asked. I am thinking of either giving it to one of you or placing it up for sale. I have enough to do trying to keep up with Emmett and his wives, and soon he's going to have 7 to have to keep up with, I told them. Sophia looked to Stewart. I only agreed to help Law, so I don't want this lodge, Sophia said. Nor do I, really. Want me to make the arrangements for sale? Stewart asked. Yes, you do that, and I will speak with Emmett. The Thorntons you do not wish to keep, then block sell them. Besides Carol, I will see what Emmett says about her coming to Damera, or I will purchase a cottage. If I need to purchase a cottage, I will need more than just her. So I will let you know what is going on as soon as I find out, I told them. All right, I will start the closing of the establishment first thing in the morn, Sophia said. What if Carol tonight? Angela wants to take her with us, she added. Carol can stay with Angela for now, at least until I speak with Emmett and see if he wants me to get a cottage or remain at the palace, I answered. We then left back out. I went back to the palace and looked around for Emmett, finding out he was in his chambers with his new courtesan. I then had the guard to inform him when they see him that I was back and would be in my office and I needed a word with him when he had the time. I then went to my office and started to work on the contracts I had for the lodge and settled them to end. I was still working on the 12 contracts I had for the lodge, writing out closing letters to them, when Emmett came into the office. Guard said you needed to speak with me. What is wrong? He asked as he moved to the corner of my desk and sat on it. Nothing really. I am going to close the lodge and sell it, as Stewart and Sophia said they do not want it, I told him. Close the lodge? Why? He asked. Because I really do not have time for it, I told him. No time for it. You know, Law, you are the one that appointed yourself my personal guard. I think I will be just fine if you want to move back to the lodge and run it from there, he told me. The lodge I really do not want. The position in the circle takes priority over it anyway, I said to him. Well, then you want to take up Admiral of the Guard? Besides, the only thing you do not do for that station is the reports, he said with a smirk. Who is the Admiral now? I asked. Alexander has been doing the reports and paperwork for it. However, I need him more so with the Saltarn Circle, and so does Father, he explained. All right. Do I need to purchase a cottage or remain here? I inquired. There is no reason why you cannot remain here. Have what you want delivered here to your area of the palace. Emmett said, the only thing that is not here is Carol, and I'm not placing her for sale. She will be brought here and be my office diner, I told him. He started to laugh. You either love that woman or just want to torment her. Not sure which it is, Emmett told me. Well, I do not love her. I do care for her. Besides, we dated for what, about 12 full year cycles? She just thought she was better than anyone else. Well, she is now nothing besides a Dinah, and I will see to it she does not forget that, I told him. Other than slapping you every time you turned around and every chance she got, what else do you have against the girl? Emmett asked. It is just the way she treated everyone around her, as if she was a high priestess and the pedestal she placed herself on. I will see to it she is taken care of, at the same time keeping her as she is and off any kind of pedestal. Where is the girl you bought? I said, changing the subject. She is in my chambers, and I have started her training. I only have 30 days to get her ready for the joining, so you know what I'll be doing, he told me. You know the first chance she gets, she will take off. Emmett, even I can read that in her, I told him. Well, she will not have that chance for at least 3 weeks. We will see what happens. Right now, I am somewhat keeping her in order control. She fights it. However, she is not strong enough to break my control. So this is a good thing. I will see you in the morning, he said, and stood, moving from the office, and I returned to working on the closing letters. Emmett had been busy with Charisma. It had been about a week passing. I was sitting in my office when Maverick and Adam came in with Carol. She knelt her head to the ground, and I let her remain that way as Adam started to speak. All right, now that you have placed the lodge into closing, what am I to do? You terminating my employment? Adam asked. I looked up to him as Emmett came into the room and looked to us. I watched as he looked to Carol and made a small laugh, then moved to sit on the couch. Girl, rise and fetch me a tonic, then return to holding the floor down with your head, Emmett said with a chuckle. After you fix Emmett's drink position at the bar, you will now serve me here as my chamber and office girl, I told her, and smirked to Emmett, then looked to Adam as she obeyed, thinking to herself she was more than just a Dinah, and I would deal with that later. Adam, I will not have the lodge, so there is no need for a trainer, I informed him. All right, I will be your guard then, he informed me, and I chuckled. I am the Admiral of the Millennium Guards. I do not think I need 3 guards. I have 2 already that believe they guard me, I replied. Hey, Law, now you know how I feel, Emmett said, laughing, taking his drink from Carol and waving her from him. What do you mean by that? I asked Emmett. Well, you appointed yourself my guard, and I have how many? He said, still laughing. I looked at him. Have a position for another guard open? I questioned him. I'm not sure. You will have to speak with the Admiral of the Guards. He does the filling of the palace guards, he said with a shit grin. I took a deep breath and chuckled. All right, Adam, your new position is in the Circle Guard of the Millennium. How is that? I asked him. Sounds good to me. Do I live here or get a room elsewhere? You will have a room in the east wing. We'll have it arranged as soon as I can get Patsy and Danny to stay still for the passing of 5 minutes, Emmett informed him. We spoke for a while, then Emmett finished his drink and left back to torment his newfound girl. I looked to Carol. Bring me a tonic, I told her, and watched as she fixed it and moved over to me. Healing, she offered it up to me. I took it and set it on the desk. May your Dinah speak, she asked. What is it? I answered. My master has sent for his Dinah to serve him, she questioned. I am placing the lodge up for sale, and yes, you will serve me. As I said, my chambers and office girl. You will keep these areas spotless. You will sleep at the Dinah ring in my chambers, I informed her. She smiled brightly. Master will train his Dinah to him, she asked with confidence in her being right, and I placed my head back and laughed. Not hardly. You are already trained to keep the areas clean. Why must I retrain you? And as for you being trained to me, that is the farthest from my mind, I informed her. Yet my master said his Dinah would sleep at the Dinah ring in my master's chambers, she protested. Yes, and you will. Carol, you are nothing to me besides one that I own. You had best learn that, and fast. Now position at the bar, I told her. It did not take long for the lodge to be sold. The following next 3 weeks, Emmett would be training charisma. We had just returned from a meeting at Mahala when Emmett and I entered his office. I moved to sit on the sofa as he sat behind his desk. I watched as he picked up a gold collar up from his desk and started to laugh. Well, I was wondering how long it would take her to try and escape. She has done it, he said, opening a drawer and placing Charisma's collar into it. Want me to get the guards together and go find her? She could not have gotten too far. She was here when we left, I told him, as we had only been gone for about 3 passings of the hour. No, she will return on her own, he informed me, as always, full of confidence and shit. What if she does not? You know, it is only 6 days before the start of the new year cycle, and you are to take your 4th priestess, I told him. Yes, I know, and if she does not return, I will have to take Penelope. If that is the case, then you and the others will locate her, and she will be destroyed. If she returns, as I suspect, then I will go on with the ceremony. Who is to say she will not attempt it again? I asked. Law, if she returns on her own, then now she knows I own more of her than just her being, yet her body and mind as well. We will wait and see what happens. If I am forced to take Penny, the first action not favorable to a priestess, and she will find herself in a gold collar, if not destroyed, as I will not tolerate what her father does from her, he informed me. Chapter 20. I had finished the Damera guard report that Alexander had been harping on me for. There was 150 guard posts and only 85 guards for the post. I would have to send out notices for guards recruits. However, at this time I was tired of looking at it and decided to find Emmett and the others. They had been sitting in the gathering when I walked in. Alexander looked up to me. Did you get the report finished so I know what is what and where and who? He asked. Yes, and we are in need of a few more, actually much few more. I will work on that at a later date, I told him. As long as I have a starting point for now, is all I needed. He then said, I walked over to the bar and started to fix me a drink. "You got your starter point, then," I replied, taking lean on the wall next to the fireplace. Scott started to laugh as we talked. As usual, Elizabeth was on his lap and Juanita was on Emmett's as Partina sat beside them, looking at a book, more so studying the book, when Charisma walked up in the doorway. "Well, look. She made it back just in time for the wedding," Scott said as he waved his hand her way. No one else spoke as we looked to Charisma and she healed. Then we looked to Emmett. I leaned on the mantel to the fireplace as I watched Emmett motion Juanita up. He then stood and motioned Charisma to him. "Come here to me," he said sternly to her. She raised and moved to him. You could sense the fear in the girl as she approached Emmett. He then backhanded her and she fell to the ground at his feet. He then snapped his fingers and I watched as she moved quickly to her feet to the position known as attention. "Go to my quarters. Clean up yourself and do not leave my quarters," he said calmly yet stern to her. She went to her hands and knees, crawled out of the room. No one said anything for about 3 minutes. "E, you all right?" Scott then said as he stood guiding Elizabeth to her feet. "Everything will be, I am sure. Inform Father that she has returned and the wedding will go as planned," he said and moved out of the room. I said nothing. I was watching him leave. "You did it," I then heard Azrael say in the hallway. "No, I did not do it." "You did it," I heard his other daughter Majestica say. "I did not do it," Azrael then said. "Somebody doed it," Jacqueline then said. "That somebody not me," Majestica protested. "Maybe Connie doed it," Jacqueline said. "No, maybe Connie not doed it," I heard Constance's voice. Partina and Juanita stood and moved out into the hall to the bickering children, and I moved back to my quiet office. It was the following day that we were on our way to Valhalla for the wedding. A tree fell before the coach as Cyrus and I got off the steeds and walked past the coach. I saw another one falling. "Cyrus," I called to him, and we both reached into the coach and pulled Emmett and Charisma out from it as the tree fell on the coach. For a moment Emmett stood there shocked, looking to me, then the tree. Charisma jerked quickly from Cyrus, and before him or I even realized it, she was grabbing a hold of Emmett. "What is going on?" Emmett asked as he placed his arms around Charisma. "That I am not sure of. Good question," I replied, making a signal to the guards to search the area. "Emmett, you take my steed, and I will meet you at Valhalla," I told him. He then helped Charisma on the steed, then moved in behind her and rode off. We searched the area for about an hour, coming up with nothing. Whoever or what it was now no longer in the area. That would be the first of many attacks on the life of our Millennium High Priest. Charisma and Emmett were joined. The wedding went without any distractions. There was no threats beside the one earlier. I had told Scott and Mike about it, and Danny agreed with me that someone was out to end the turn of the Millennium. As to who or even why, none of us could come up with an adequate reason. However, it was plainly seen we needed to fill the guards of the palace. I sent out recruit notes That following day, I spent the next 3 days filling stations. Soon I would have all positions filled and would feel a lot better. Lewis had suggested that Emmett and the women move to Valhalla. However, Emmett would not consider it. So the priestess thought it would be better if they came to Damera for the princess's lessons on the priestessy. So now we had the duty to watch over the priestesses and the princesses, as if Emmett and his wives were not enough. I was sitting in my office, which was located across from Emmett's, looking to see if any of the posts needed to be filled. I was proud of myself. I had almost filled them all. "Who are you, and what do you want?" I heard Emmett say loudly. "How did you get in here?" I then heard him say, "I stood and moved out into the hall, and I saw 4 guards that were posted in the hall, laying face down on the floor. I took a deep breath and moved across the hall to Emmett's office. As I entered, I saw Emmett pull his sword as another man stood with a sword pulled on Emmett. "What is going on?" I said, entering, and the man turned to look to me, then turned as I pulled my sword. "Emmett, call the guards," I said silently to him, as I swung my sword to the neck of the man, and he blocked me. Emmett moved to his desk, and within moments the guards entered and surrounded the man, then placed him into custody. That is when I decided wherever Emmett was, he was not going to be out of my sight unless in his chambers. Then 2 guards would be posted outside his chambers. Emmett was in the gathering with all 4 of his now mates. Stewart and Elizabeth had her arms around Emmett's neck. Elizabeth had her arms around Emmett's neck, standing behind him. I and Cyrus was standing inside the room, as always. I was leaning on the mantel of the fireplace, and Cyrus and Maverick were playing some card game. I was enjoying watching the 5 women around Emmett. I really felt regretful for him. He had Elizabeth behind him, Charisma at his feet, Juanita to his right, Martina to his left, and little Stewart not far from him either. I took a drink, enjoying the torment of my best, dearest friend, laughing inside, thanking the Lord I was not him. "So who will be your 5th priestess?" she said, leaning into him. "You're choking me," he laughed, and took her hand and guided her from behind the sofa to in front of him. She laughed and sat on his lap. "Forgive me, Emmett," she said, smiling to him and kissing his lips. He returned her kiss. "I am not sure, as the King of Kalkan has no daughter. I know Father will be insisting on the 5th one within the passing of the next few cycles." I listened as he explained to her. "I know," Stewart said, all excited. "Pick me," she then said, from sitting on the other side of Juanita. "I am not mating my sister by decree," he laughed. And I had to as well. Stewart was always trying to propose to Emmett, and he would hear nothing of it. "What does a girl have to do to become a priestess around here?" she then said in a cry, and I laughed more, listening. The rest of them started to laugh as Emmett reached behind Juanita and rubbed Stewart on the head. "You know I love you," he said to her. "As a little sister," she said sadly, and standing up away from him. 4 of his youngest daughters came running into the room. They were Azrael, Sherelle, Majestica, and Jacquelina. "Come play with us, see what we did," Sherelle called to her as Azrael and Majestica grabbed her hands and started to pull her out. I was watching, leaning on the fireplace, as she started to laugh. "What did the lot of you destroy now?" she asked them as they continued to pull her out of the room from us. "Connie is protecting it, so it goes nowhere. Come see," Azrael said, as poor Stockard was trying hard to stay in the room from being pulled by a bunch of kids. All right, she called to them, then looked to Emmett. Answer still no?" she asked, and I chuckled, hiding it behind taking a drink and moving to the bar to fix me another one. "No to what?" he asked her, as he also was laughing at the girls and her. "Making me the next priestess," she said, as the children continued to pull on her and getting her closer to the door. "Come on, let us go," Sherelle said. "No, you cannot be a priestess. You got to come see what we did. You can be a priestess later," Jacqueline spoke up, trying to help by pushing Stockard from behind. She then went out of the room with the children. "That poor girl, you are breaking her heart," I said to Emmett, laughing. "You are not much funnier than she is," he informed me, and I laughed more. "You really should start thinking about the priestess. We only have 4 more years, before you're coronated." Juanita spoke up. "I know. I will figure out something." Well, Constance came running into the room and to Isic, and all out of breath. "You gots to come out, and quick," Aunt Stockard said. She said, holding her knees to catch her breath. I raised from the lean and looked at her. "What is wrong?" I said, starting to worry. "Not gots time. Come on," she said, grabbing Emmett and Juanita's hand and pulling on them. Elizabeth got up and they left the gathering. I and the others followed. Now to tell you a little about these daughters of Emmett's. At this time in the story, they were all called the Terrors. They were Barbara, Anna, and Stella, whom were the oldest. I believe they were around 15, 13 level. Then there was Azrael and Sherelle, which were twins, and they were in 6th level. Then Majestica and Constance, who was in 5th level, and Jacqueline, who was in 4th level. Then they had this friend, whose name was Dana. She was also in 6th level. Then there was Patricia. She was also in 6th level, and the trouble of them all. As I was saying, I followed them out into the garden, thinking the worst. However, when we got to the garden, there was 6 or 8 chipmunks about a cute designed little structure made from logs, with a child screaming from inside. Now, how they got the screaming child inside was news to me, as there was no visual way of getting in or out of the structure. Now, I leaned on the palace to see just what was actually going on. Emmett moved closer to Stockard and the other children. "What is going on?" I heard Emmett ask calmly. Day is trapped in the little building there. It is just logs stacked on top of one another," Stockard said with worry in her voice. "I am scared. Please, I want my daddy," the young girl cried from within the structure. "Oh, for my Lord," Juanita said, moving closer to Emmett and looking to him than the girls. "I will hold the structure together and see if I can get her out," Juanita had suggested to Emmett. Now I was laughing inside. Even if this was not a very funny situation, however, it was fun watching Emmett solve the problems his children and wives could get themselves into. "No, Juanita, it's not necessary, Azrael has it," Emmett said. "Let go of the logs, Dana," he then called to the child within. All right, yet it going to fall on my head, the child called back to him, and I chuckled, enjoying this. Then you may have a squashed brain, Constance called to her, and I believe not helping the situation much at all. He turned to me as I was enjoying myself, way too much at his expense. Help me raise the logs, he said, and I nodded. We raised the logs from around the child and placed them beside her. As we let go all the logs, they just fell apart and laid in a pile. Emmett then moved to his daughters and motioned them to come to him, and they all gathered around him, even Dana. Next time you want to build a play cottage, use mud mixed with water to hold the logs together, and you need to make a door in it, he said, laughing. Yes, Father, they answered him as Jacqueline went over to him and placed her hands up in the air, and he picked her up and placed her on his shoulders. Now, as for you, little one, and little animal persuader, no more help from chipmunks. Chipmunks belong in the forest, not the garden. He laughed even more as he spoke to his daughter. No more help from chipmunks. Got it, she said in a way she was now thinking of any other type of animal. I started to laugh. His daughters were just darling and in need of cages, so that they could not get into anything or destroy it. Emmett had more kids than any one man needed. Then he had more wives than any one man needed as well. His boys did not cause as much chaos as his girls did. They all had little names for them. The terrors were the ones mentioned before, and then there was the trio, who was Azrael, Magic, and Constance. These were also the children born of the lights of Odin's daughters. They had abilities that they really did not know of, and at times it was good they did not know all they could do, especially when it came to the trio. They were the strongest of his daughters, also the ones that caused most of the mischief, and Jacqueline, who we all called Jackie, went right along with whatever her big sisters wanted to do. Now Barbara Ann and Stella, they were pretty much the ones that just humored the three. It seemed safer that way. Anytime his daughters were doing anything, you could rest assured trouble followed wherever it was.